The stars looked calm that night, silent, peaceful. But deep in the blackness of space, something terrible had happened. Something that would change the course of human history forever. Colony Station Epsilon 9 had stopped responding. At first, people thought it was just a technical glitch. Happens all the time in space. Signals drop, equipment fails, things get delayed. But when Earth Command sent a small recon drone to check it out, what it found was horrifying. Epsilon 9 wasn't just silent, it was gone. Wreckage floated where a once thriving space station had been. No life signs, no escape pods, just metal scraps, frozen bodies, and the black silence of space. The video feed was hard to watch. More than 12,000 people had lived there. Families, scientists, engineers, children. Now, nothing. Behind the scenes, military analysts worked day and night to figure out what had happened. They enhanced the footage, checked the last security transmissions, and compared damage patterns. And soon they had an answer. One nobody wanted to believe: the Varkari. They were an alien race humanity had been aware of for some time. For years there had been tension, especially in the outer zones of space. There were rumors of Varkari scout ships watching from afar, or strange disappearances near their territory. But for the most part they had kept their distance, and humans had done the same, until now. The Terran Council, the highest authority over human space, called an emergency meeting. The footage was shown behind closed doors. No one from the public saw it, but everyone could feel something was coming. People on Earth and the colonies noticed that news channels went silent about Epsilon 9. Military ships started moving. Reservists were quietly called in. Then the official announcement came: "We are under attack. The Varkari are responsible for the destruction of Epsilon 9. Humanity will respond." That was all the people needed to hear. Commander Talia Wren sat in her quarters aboard the TSS Resolute, one of the most advanced command ships in the human fleet. She had seen the footage before the rest of the council. Her jaw had clenched when she watched it, but she showed no emotion. Not outwardly. She couldn't afford to. She was chosen for this mission, not because she was the smartest or the most decorated, but because she was calm, unshakable. And that's exactly what this moment needed. The order had been given. Full mobilization of the 7th Fleet, codenamed Judgment Wing. It wasn't just another group of ships. These were the best. Earth's finest tacticians, pilots, and engineers. Ships equipped with the latest AI-assist targeting systems, quantum rail cannons, stealth drives, and next-generation energy shields. No expense had been spared. After Epsilon 9, there were no half-measures. The mission was clear. Enter the Warzone. Identify Varkari forces. Eliminate all hostiles. And secure Outpost Helios. Outpost Helios had been the closest functioning base to Epsilon 9. It also happened to sit right on the edge of a major quantum relay gate, a piece of technology that allowed near-instant travel across human space. If the Varkari had taken control of Helios, they could potentially open a path straight to the core human worlds. That couldn't happen. Commander Wren stood in front of her bridge crew. The massive viewing window showed only stars, but everyone on board knew what was out there. She spoke quietly, but every word carried weight. "We're not here to start a war," she said. "We're here because someone already did, and we're going to finish it." No one cheered. No one smiled. It wasn't that kind of speech, but everyone on that bridge felt it. The silence that followed meant everyone understood. Preparations began immediately. Hundreds of support ships fueled up. Weapon systems were calibrated. Defense patterns reviewed. AI simulations ran countless battle scenarios. The fleet had less than 6 hours before they would reach the Orion Verge, what was once a neutral zone between human and Varkari territory. Now it was considered a war zone. Back on Earth, people watched the sky. They knew a response was coming, but they had no idea how close to the edge things really were. Families of those in the 7th Fleet received one final message from their loved ones. Some were short and simple. Others were full of emotion, apologies, memories. Many feared they wouldn't come back, but the crew of the 7th Fleet had made peace with that. They weren't fighting for glory. They were fighting for everyone back home who still believed they were safe. 4 hours into the journey, Wren received a private message from the Terran Council. It included classified data about a possible Varkari trap, one that could mean the entire fleet would be walking straight into an ambush. She stared at the screen for a long time after reading it. Then she deleted the message. If it was true, there was no turning back anyway. And if it wasn't, they'd find out soon enough. 30 minutes before arrival, the ship lights dimmed. Standard procedure. Crew members strapped in, checked their gear, said their last quiet prayers or focused on breathing. Most of them were veterans. They had seen space combat before, but none of them had seen what they were about to face. As the fleet approached the edge of the war zone, sensors began to flicker. Static interference, the sign of Varkari cloaking tech. Everyone tensed. Ren stood in front of the navigation table, watching the live map update with every passing second. Suddenly, the stars ahead looked different. Something was out there. The 7th Fleet slowed, entering a high alert formation. Energy shields activated. Weapons were armed. And in that final moment of quiet, Commander Ren gave one final order. Whatever happens next, hold your ground. Then the fleet crossed into the verge. What they saw would stay with them forever. The fleet was moving slowly now, entering the part of space called the Orion Verge. It was once a quiet area, a kind of middle ground between human space and the Varkari territory. Ships from different races passed through, sometimes exchanging greetings or trading goods. But today it was a dangerous place. It was a war zone. Commander Talia Ren stood on the bridge of the Resolute, the command ship, her eyes fixed on the wide screens in front of her. The stars outside looked the same as always, but the sensors told a different story. The area was filled with debris from destroyed ships, burned-out satellites, and drifting wreckage. Space was supposed to be vast and empty, but here it was crowded with the remains of battle. Damage reports? Ren asked quietly. Lieutenant Raj, her communications officer, checked the data. No damage to our fleet so far, ma'am. The Varkari haven't made a move yet. Good, Ren said. She turned to the tactical officer, Captain Lin. What about the enemy fleet? Lin shook his head. We don't see them. They're using their cloaking technology. We can't detect them directly. That's what worries me, Ren said. If they're here hidden, they could strike any moment. The crew worked silently, each person focused on their role. Space battles were different from the old wars on Earth. There were no loud noises, no explosions the crew could hear. It was all about scanning, calculating, predicting. The ships fought with beams of energy, missiles, and railguns that fired metal slugs at incredible speeds. Every second counted. Ren moved to the holographic map table. It showed the layout of the Verge, the position of the Resolute, other fleet ships, and the location of Outpost Helios, their mission target. The outpost was about 10 million kilometers ahead, surrounded by the twisted remains of old defenses. Helios is our main objective, Ren said, tapping the table. If the Varkari control the outpost, they control the gate. We can't let that happen. The quantum relay gate at Helios was a crucial piece of technology. It could send ships across light years in moments. Losing it to the Varkari could open a dangerous path into Earth's heart. The Terran Council had warned them that the Varkari would defend it fiercely. A quiet voice came over the comms. Commander, we're picking up faint energy signatures near Helios. Unknown vessels, Ren nodded. Show me. The screen flickered, then revealed several shapes. Small dark forms, barely visible. The Varkari, they're waiting for us, Ren said. This confirms the reports about a trap. The tension on the bridge grew. Every crew member was prepared, but no one liked walking into an ambush. Ren took a deep breath. She knew her job was to keep everyone alive and to win. We proceed carefully, she ordered. Use all sensors. Stay in formation. No sudden moves. The fleet moved slowly, every ship scanning the darkness. The Varkari vessels were hidden in the ruins, using the broken defense ring as cover. The aliens had spent years improving their cloaking technology, making it almost impossible to see them until they struck. Suddenly, a soft beep echoed through the bridge. Commander, a ship just decloaked 50,000 kilometers ahead. Ren looked at the screen. A single Varkari warship appeared, dark and sleek. It hovered near the outpost, its weapons aimed outward. Target locked, said the weapons officer. Hold fire, Ren said quickly. Let's see what they do. The warship sent a message in broken human language. Leave this place. You will be destroyed. Ren's jaw tightened. She replied through the translator. We didn't come here for a fight. But we won't leave either. The warship didn't answer. Instead, it disappeared again, slipping back into the shadows. The fleet tightened its formation. Ren ordered drones to scan the area more aggressively. sending tiny machines to fly through the debris and relay back any signs of the hidden ships. Hours passed like this. The fleet moved slowly, careful not to trigger an attack. The crew took turns resting, but the tension never fully left the air. Ren spent most of her time on the bridge. She knew that the moment of battle could come at any second. She thought about the families waiting back home, about the people on Epsilon 9 who never got a chance to escape. This was for them. Finally, the fleet reached the outer ring of Outpost Helios. The ruins of the defense platforms floated in space, broken and dead. The quantum gate shimmered quietly in the distance, a silent reminder of what was at stake. Sensors picking up movement, Lynn said. Multiple ships decloaking at once. The Varkari were revealing themselves. The ambush was about to begin. Ready all weapons, Ren ordered. Prepare for full engagement. The fleet's energy shields hummed as they powered up. The tension on the bridge turned into focused energy. Everyone knew what to do. But then something unexpected happened. The Varkari ships didn't attack. Instead, they stayed where they were, watching. Ren frowned. Why aren't they firing? Lynn checked the data again. Their weapons aren't charging. Maybe it's a bluff? Or maybe they're waiting for something, Ren said. She knew better than to underestimate the enemy, but she also knew that fear could make foes hesitate. Prepare for the worst, she said. But don't give them the fight they want. The fleet held position, scanning every corner of the war zone. Suddenly, the AI system flagged an anomaly. Commander, we have detected faint energy pulses behind the outpost. Large vessels moving into position. Ren's eyes narrowed. A second wave. The Varkari weren't just waiting, they were regrouping. If those ships joined the fight, the battle would be even tougher. Ren made a quick decision. We strike first. The Resolute's rail cannons powered up, their massive barrels glowing faintly with energy. The fleet's fighters prepared to launch. It was time. Engage, Ren said. The first shots tore through space, streaks of blue light racing toward the enemy. The rail cannons fired with precision, aiming for the largest ships hidden in the shadows. The Varkari ships scrambled to respond, but they were slow to react. The initial strike hit hard. On the bridge, crew members cheered quietly, but Ren stayed focused. Keep pressure on them. Target the command ships. The battle had begun. The battle had just begun, but it was already unlike anything the crew of the Resolute had ever experienced. The Varkari ships, once hidden in the shadows, now moved quickly, trying to regroup and counterattack. Commander Talia Ren stood steady on the bridge, her eyes scanning the glowing map that showed the chaos unfolding around them. The stars outside were no longer peaceful. Instead, they were streaked with lines of light, beams from rail cannons, pulses of energy from alien weapons, and the trails of fighter ships darting back and forth like angry hornets. The fleet was outnumbered, but their training and technology gave them an edge. The Resolute's AI calculated thousands of potential moves every second, predicting enemy positions and guiding the fleet's response. Lieutenant Raj spoke calmly. Commander, we've identified the command ship among the Varkari. It's larger than the rest and heavily shielded. Target it first, Ren ordered. If we take down their command, the rest will lose coordination. The rail cannons on the Resolute powered up again, glowing brighter as they charged. Then, with a burst of energy, the first shots fired, metal slugs moving faster than the eye could follow, aimed precisely at the Varkari command ship. The enemy tried to dodge, but the shot struck true. Explosions lit up the darkness as parts of the command ship were torn apart. But it was still moving. The Varkari weren't going down easily. Enemy fighters launching, the tactical officer called out. Small, fast ships broke away from the larger vessels, heading straight for the human fleet. They moved in tight groups, attacking the outer defense ships. Ren watched the fighter pilots on the screens, a mixture of skill and fear in their eyes. These were the moments that tested every soldier, every pilot, every crew member. Launch interceptors, Ren ordered. Protect the fleet. The human fighters sprang into action, weaving through the dark expanse with skill and speed. They chased down the Varkari fighters, exchanging bursts of laser fire. The soundless battle was a dance of light and movement, but it was deadly serious. One of the human fighters was hit. The pilot, a young man named Jace, sent a quick message over comms. Taking damage, losing control, ejecting. The crew on the Resolute held their breath as the pilot's escape pod launched, drifting into space. Rescue drones moved immediately to retrieve him, but the risk was high. The Varkari fighters circled, trying to stop the rescue. "Get that pod," Ren said sharply. No one left behind. Jace's pod was pulled into the fleet and the young pilot was safe. A cheer broke out in the control room, but Ren reminded them, "Stay focused. This fight isn't over." Back on the bridge, Ren's eyes scanned the battlefield again. The Varkari ships were regrouping, preparing for another strike. She knew the enemy was smart, patient. They would wait for the right moment to hit hard. Suddenly, the fleet's AI flashed a warning. "Commander, multiple cloaked vessels detected approaching from the rear." Ren frowned. "How did we miss those?" "Advanced stealth tech," the AI explained. They were hiding in the debris fields. The fleet quickly adjusted formation, turning to face the new threat. The crew could feel the tension rising. They were being surrounded. Ren's mind raced. She knew that if the Varkari hit from behind, the fleet could be trapped. "Prepare countermeasures," she said. "Deploy drones to flush them out." Small drones sped into the debris, sending out pulses to detect cloaked ships. The hidden enemy began to reveal themselves. Just faint outlines at first, but enough to target. The human fleet fired a coordinated volley. The Varkari cloaked vessels erupted in bursts of light as they were struck, their shields failing. Ren allowed herself a brief smile. "Good, we're holding." But then the unexpected happened. A new message came through the comms. Not from the Varkari ships attacking, but from an unknown source. "Commander Ren," the voice said, clear and calm. "We are observers. We wish to speak." Ren's brow furrowed. "Who is this?" The voice replied, "We are the Eldari. We have watched your conflict. We believe the Varkari actions here threaten the balance of this region." The Eldari were an ancient race, known across several star systems for their wisdom and power. No one expected them to intervene. "Why now?" Ren asked. "Because," the voice said, "the Varkari have crossed a line. We offer a chance for peace or we will be forced to act." The message left the bridge in stunned silence. The crew had trained for battle, but not for diplomacy with alien races. Ren broke the silence. "Prepare a response. Tell them we are open to talks, but we will defend ourselves if attacked." As the Eldari's message ended, the battle resumed with even more intensity. The Varkari seemed to grow more desperate, their attacks fiercer. It was clear they understood what was at stake. The human fleet fought hard, but fatigue was setting in. Hours of continuous battle wore on the crew's nerves. Ren walked among the control stations, checking on her officers. They were tired, but their eyes burned with determination. She stopped by the communications officer. "How's the signal to Earth?" "Stable for now," he said. "But we're cutting it close." Ren nodded. "They need to know what's happening here." Her thoughts drifted to the families waiting at home, to the young pilot who had just been saved. This war wasn't just about ships and weapons. It was about people. Suddenly, the tactical officer called out, "Commander, the Varkari command ship is retreating." The crew cheered quietly, but Ren stayed alert. "Don't let them regroup. Pursue and finish this." The fleet moved in, pressing the advantage. The Varkari ships started to break apart, their formation collapsing. After minutes that felt like hours, the battle slowed. The Varkari had been pushed back but not destroyed. Ren knew this was just the beginning. The crew prepared to regroup and repair. The Resolute's engineers worked quickly to patch damage and restock weapons. The fighters who had survived returned to the hangars, exhausted but alive. Ren looked at the stars again, still dark, still silent. The war zone was not quiet anymore. The dust of battle had barely settled when Commander Talia Ren stood once again on the bridge of the Resolute, the hum of the ship's systems the only sound in the quiet room. The crew worked efficiently, but the tension remained thick in the air. Though the Varkari had retreated, the fight was far from over. Ren's eyes flicked over the status reports on her console. The fleet had taken damage, nothing critical but enough to slow them down. Some smaller ships needed repairs and a few pilots were nursing injuries. But the worst was the uncertainty. They had won this skirmish, but what came next? The war zone was still dark and dangerous. She sighed, running a hand through her hair. Battles like these weren't just about technology or strategy. They were about people. The faces behind the consoles, the hands that held the controls, the voices that called out commands. Everyone here was fighting for something. Their families, their homes, their future. "Commander," the tactical officer spoke, breaking her thoughts. We have a message from Earth Command. Wren nodded. Put it through. The screen flickered and the stern face of Admiral Hayes appeared. His voice was steady but serious. Commander Wren, your fleet has done well to hold the line, but intelligence reports confirm the Varkari are regrouping. We expect a major counterattack soon. Your priority is to secure Outpost Helios and hold the quantum relay gate at all costs. Wren responded calmly. Understood, Admiral. We are preparing to move in. The screen went dark. Wren turned to her officers. This is it. The real battle is ahead. The crew tightened their grip on their stations. The atmosphere shifted from cautious to focused. Everyone knew what was coming. The Resolute and the fleet moved deeper into the war zone, closer to Outpost Helios. The ruins of the old defense ring floated like ghosts in the void. Twisted metal and broken platforms that had once protected the gate. Now they were silent witnesses to the coming storm. Wren studied the map. The quantum relay gate was just beyond the debris. Securing it meant preventing the Varkari from using it to bring reinforcements or launch surprise attacks across human space. Prepare boarding teams, she ordered. If we take the gate, we'll need to defend it from ground assault. Lieutenant Raj nodded. Teams are ready, Commander. Medical units and engineers included. Wren knew how dangerous ground combat could be on alien outposts. The environment was unfamiliar, and the Varkari would not give up without a fight. But controlling the gate was vital. As the fleet closed in, sensors began picking up strange readings. A low, pulsing energy filled the space around Helios, an alien technology Wren had never seen before. Commander, the science officer said, this is some kind of energy field. It's interfering with our shields and sensors. Wren frowned. Can we disable it? The officer shook his head. Not without getting closer. It's connected to the outpost's main systems. Wren made a decision. We're going in. The fleet adjusted formation, moving carefully through the field. The energy pulses made their shields flicker, but the ships held steady. Then a sudden jolt shook the Resolute. Alarms blared. Direct hit, the weapons officer shouted. Enemy fire from the outpost! The Varkari had been waiting. They opened fire with hidden turrets and missile batteries still operational in the ruins. Raise shields to maximum, Wren ordered. Return fire. The fleet responded instantly. Laser beams and railgun slugs tore through space, targeting the Varkari defenses. Fighters launched from the hangars, darting through the debris to engage enemy units. The battle had moved from space to the outpost itself. Wren activated the comms. Boarding teams, prepare for deployment. Your window is open. Outside the ship, the vacuum of space stretched endlessly. The boarding pods separated from the Resolute, gliding silently toward Helios. Inside each pod, soldiers gripped their weapons and checked their gear. Faces showed a mix of nerves and determination. Among them was Captain Mira Santos, leader of the elite boarding unit. She looked at her team, her voice steady. Remember, we fight for every inch. Keep together, watch each other's backs, and get that gate secured. The pod slammed into the outpost's docking bay. Airlocks hissed open, and the soldiers poured into dark corridors lit by flickering emergency lights. The outpost was a maze of metal and shadows. The air was thin, recycled from old systems and filled with the smell of burnt circuits. The Varkari were waiting. Suddenly, gunfire echoed through the halls. Contact! Mira shouted, firing her pulse rifle. The Varkari attackers moved fast, slim, agile, and deadly. Their weapons fired bolts of energy that struck walls and floors with sparks. The boarding team pressed forward, firing back with steady, controlled bursts. Mira's team fought through corridor after corridor, pushing deeper into the outpost. Their mission was clear: reach the quantum relay gate room and take control. Behind them, the fleet continued its struggle in orbit. The Resolute absorbed hit after hit, but the crew held fast, repairing damage and keeping weapons ready. In the gate room, the boarding team found the control panels glowing faintly. Mira moved to the main console, typing quickly to override the systems. Almost there, she said. Then the ground shook. A loud roar filled the room. The Varkari had activated a defense system, a massive automated turret that turned toward the gate room entrance. Hold your positions, Mira commanded. We'll cover the controls. Her team formed a defensive circle, firing at the turret's energy cannon as it charged. Outside, the turret fired. Energy blasts slammed into the walls and floor, sending shards of metal flying. Mira's heart pounded, but she stayed focused. She had to disable the turret before it destroyed them. she spotted the turret's control panel on the side. "Cover me," she said, sprinting toward it. Bullets and energy bolts zipped past her, but she reached the panel and jammed her fingers onto the controls. Sparks flew, and the turret's energy beam flickered. Suddenly, the turret powered down. The room fell silent, except for the heavy breathing of the soldiers. Mira returned to the console. "Gate control is ours." Back on the Resolute, Ren allowed herself a small smile. The mission was succeeding, but her relief was short-lived. The fleet's sensors detected a massive energy buildup near the outpost. "Commander, the Varkari are preparing a superweapon," the tactical officer warned. "If it fires, it could destroy the entire fleet." Ren's face hardened. "We can't let that happen." She ordered every available ship to focus fire on the energy source. The fleet unleashed a barrage of weapons trying to stop the Varkari. The space around Helios exploded in a storm of light and fire. Energy beams clashed, ships weaved through debris, and the battle raged on. Ren knew that the fight for Outpost Helios was far from over. But she also knew something else. This was about more than just winning a battle. It was about protecting the future of humanity, the people who relied on them to be strong, brave, and unyielding. And Commander Talia Ren was determined they would not fail. The battle for Outpost Helios was far from over, but the mood on the Resolute had shifted slightly. The fleet had managed to hold the quantum relay gate, and the boarding teams had taken control of critical areas inside the outpost. Yet the war zone was still alive with danger. The Varkari were not defeated. They were more determined than ever. Commander Talia Ren stood on the bridge, her hands resting lightly on the console as she watched the glowing battle map. Her mind raced through the endless possibilities, plans, and strategies. The survival of her crew and the success of their mission depended on the decisions she made in these moments. "Commander," the communications officer called out softly, "we have a priority message from the Eldari." Ren's eyebrows lifted. The Eldari had warned them before, but now, in the thick of battle, their message might change everything. She nodded. "Put it through." The screen flickered, and the calm, wise face of an Eldari envoy appeared. His eyes were deep and ancient, filled with a kind of knowledge that seemed to stretch beyond time. "Commander Ren," he said, his voice calm but firm, "we observe the conflict between your fleet and the Varkari. Your strength and courage are admirable, but we come with an offer." Ren leaned forward. "Go on," the envoy continued. "The Varkari are a dangerous threat to all races in this sector. Their hunger for power endangers peace. We offer our aid, not just to your fleet but to the entire human race. With our technology and wisdom, this war can end swiftly without unnecessary loss." Ren glanced at her officers. Some faces were hopeful, others cautious. "Your offer is generous," she said finally, "but how can we trust that the Eldari mean peace, not control?" The envoy smiled gently. "Trust is built over time, Commander. For now, consider our assistance. We will provide a tactical strike fleet to help you disable the Varkari's key weapon systems." The screen went dark, leaving the bridge in a heavy silence. "Thoughts?" Ren asked. Captain Lin spoke first. "We can't afford to reject help. The Varkari are regrouping. The Eldari strike fleet could turn the tide." Lieutenant Raj nodded. "But we need to be careful. Their technology is advanced and their motives unknown." Ren weighed the options. Trusting a powerful alien race was risky, but so was fighting alone. "Prepare to receive Eldari ships," she decided, "but keep defenses tight." Hours later, bright streaks of light appeared on the horizon, ships unlike any human or Varkari vessel. The Eldari fleet was arriving. Their ships moved with elegant precision, weaving through the war zone as if part of a single living being. The Eldari's energy weapons shimmered with a strange blue light that seemed almost alive. The moment the Eldari ships joined the battle, the tide began to turn. Their weapons struck deep into the Varkari lines, disabling turrets, engines, and communication arrays with surgical precision. Ren watched in awe and relief as the Varkari ships faltered. Caught in a crossfire they hadn't expected, on the Resolute, the crew felt a renewed hope. The heavy weight of the fight lifted slightly, replaced by determination, but the battle was still brutal. The Varkari refused to surrender. They fought with desperation, launching wave after wave of attacks, using every trick and weapon they had. In the boarding tunnels of Outpost Helios, Captain Mira Santos and her team pushed deeper into the complex. The corridors grew tighter, the air thicker with tension. Suddenly, the team was ambushed. Varkari warriors appeared from hidden passageways, their energy blades glowing menacingly. "Hold your ground," Mira shouted, raising her pulse rifle. The fight became personal, close and intense. The soldiers moved together like a single unit, covering each other, firing, ducking, and advancing. Mira's mind was focused on one thing: protecting her team and completing the mission. The Varkari were fierce, but so were her soldiers. Back on the Resolute, Ren received a report. "The superweapon is offline," the tactical officer said, relief clear in his voice. "Thanks to the Eldari strike fleet." Ren allowed herself a small smile but reminded the crew, "We are not done yet." Suddenly, an alarm blared across the ship. "Unknown vessel detected," the sensors officer announced. "Approaching fast," Ren frowned. On screen, the view screen flickered and showed a single ship, a sleek, black vessel unlike any Varkari or Eldari ship. The ship hailed them. "This is Captain Drax of the Varkari High Command," the voice said, cold and commanding. "I have come to end this conflict personally." Ren felt a chill. Drax was a name she had heard in stories, ruthless, cunning, and deadly. "Prepare for his arrival," she ordered. Minutes later, the High Command's ship docked with the Resolute. A tense silence filled the air. Ren met Drax face to face in the ship's conference room. His eyes were sharp, his expression unreadable. "Commander Ren," he said, "this war has been costly for both sides. I propose a truce." Ren studied him carefully. "Why should I trust you?" "Because," Drax replied, "our enemies are now greater than us both. The Eldari's involvement changes everything. We must find a way to survive, together." Ren considered his words. The war had brought destruction, loss, and pain. Maybe it was time for a new path. "Very well," she said slowly. "We will discuss terms." As Drax left, Ren knew the real challenge was just beginning. Not just winning the war, but finding peace in a universe full of danger and uncertainty. She turned back to her crew, determination shining in her eyes. "This is our chance," she said, "to end this war and protect our future together." The weight of the moment pressed down on Commander Talia Ren as she stood alone on the observation deck of the Resolute. Outside, stars glittered like distant fires, indifferent to the battles and decisions made far away from their silent glow. Inside, the war was shifting, fast, dangerous, and uncertain. The truce with Captain Drax of the Varkari High Command was fragile. A thin thread stretched between enemies who had shed too much blood to trust easily. Yet it was a thread that might hold the key to peace. Ren knew this was the hardest part. Not the firing of weapons, but the act of trust. The act of hope. She walked back to the bridge, her mind focused on the task ahead. Her crew was tired but ready. The boarding teams had secured the quantum relay gate, and the Eldari strike fleet was providing much-needed support. But now the real work of peace negotiations and rebuilding had to begin. The conference room was quiet as Ren and Captain Drax sat across from each other, surrounded by a small group of officers from both sides. The air was thick with tension, but also a strange sense of relief. Both sides had suffered enough. Drax's voice was firm but measured. "The Varkari seek to end the bloodshed. We recognize that continued war only leads to destruction for all." Ren nodded. "The humans want the same, but peace must be built on trust and understanding, not just words." They spoke for hours, about borders, resources, reparations, and future cooperation. There were moments of disagreement, sharp words, and frustration, but also moments of connection, shared pain, and hope. Outside, the crew watched closely. This was bigger than any battle. This was about the future of their worlds. Meanwhile, Captain Mira Santos and her team continued their work inside Outpost Helios. The tunnels were still dangerous, but the Varkari resistance had weakened. Engineers were repairing the damaged systems, and medical teams treated the wounded from both sides. Mira took a moment to catch her breath in a quiet hallway. She looked at the faces of her soldiers, exhausted but proud. They had done the impossible, fighting side by side with the Eldari and holding ground against a relentless enemy. She thought of the young pilot Jace who had survived the earlier battle. His courage reminded her why they fought, not just for victory but for each other. Back on the Resolute, Ren received a message from Earth Command. The news was hopeful. The homeworlds had agreed to send diplomats and aid to support the peace process. The Warzone would become a zone of peace. Ren allowed herself a rare smile. It was a small victory, but a meaningful one. Yet she knew there were challenges ahead. Not everyone wanted peace. Some Varkari factions might rebel. Some humans feared the future, and the scars of war ran deep. But for now there was a chance, a real chance to build something better. The Eldari envoy visited the Resolute again, this time with a different message. "Commander Ren," he said softly, "you have shown great leadership. Your people have the strength to overcome this dark time. Remember, peace is a journey, not a destination." Ren thanked him, feeling the weight of those words settle in her heart. The days that followed were filled with work, repairs, talks, training, and healing. The fleet became a symbol of unity, not just power. Crews shared stories, meals, and hopes. Ren walked among them, listening, encouraging, and learning. She saw in their eyes the same hope that kept her going. One evening, as the sun set beyond the distant stars, Ren stood on the observation deck again. The war zone was still there, but the silence was different now. It was a silence of peace, fragile but growing stronger. She whispered to herself, "We fought hard for this. And now we will fight for what comes next, the future." The human fleet was no longer just a force of war. It was a force of hope, and Commander Talia Ren knew that no matter what happened, they would face it together. That's part 6, bringing the story to a strong, hopeful close with simple, natural language focused on human emotions and connection. If you want, I can help with summaries, dialogue, or anything else.